On the consent agenda, tonight we only have one item. It's the minutes of a special meeting, a special budget meeting on June 14th. And I would just like to say it was on the agenda for the last meeting, and there were some questions about it. Our city manager, Steve Bogart, has gone through it and pretty well made a couple changes to reflect more aptly what he said. There's also the issue of maybe some things not being in the minutes that occurred. For instance, we had an incident where a gentleman had to be escorted from the meeting for inappropriate remarks. And that's not in the minutes. And so again, Aletha, you remember when we sat down here a year and a half ago, we had kind of the same discussion about minutes, you know, and what they should take, what should be in them, and how much, how detailed they should be, and what's important, what's not important. And I had quite a conversation with Steve about this, and I pretty much agree with his philosophy. And by the way, I don't think that the incident we had where the fellow was escorted from the meeting needs to be in the minutes. I just want to make that clear. I would like to say his name for the heck of it, that I'm not gonna. Okay, Steve, would you explain to me, you know, you had this kind of a rule for doing minutes that you think was a really good way to do it. So maybe you want to talk about that, and then we'll come back to the actual minutes.
Okay, thank you. Typically, there is a minimum requirement, excuse me, a minimum requirement in the minutes of any public body, in that all motions and the votes need to be recorded. That is the minimum requirement in the minutes. Generally, there's the approach is that there needs to be some discussion about what the body of this discussion related to. If we were talking about the police department, that's really all that needs to be noted. It's helpful if there is some general direction there. I have, because this has come up in every city, and actually at Baker County when I worked there, the level of detail in the minutes, the more extensive they get, quite often the more chance there is for somebody to have a different interpretation. And I've always functioned under the assumption that if it takes more than 2 pages per hour of a meeting, that you're getting more detail than maybe you likely need. So that's a kind of a rule of thumb approach to the minutes. And actually that's somewhat similar to the state bodies in which I've served. They try to keep to make sure it's at least somewhat reflective, but again, concise and abbreviated, and identify the issues, not necessarily each individual's position on them.
Okay, and then we always have to remember that if there is a serious issue concerning the minutes, that we always have the recordings, at least the audio recording. These are being recorded. Hope I didn't turn that off. And in addition, we are making a video recording of the meeting. So we've got the minutes, as I say, are just kind of a brief, should be a brief overview of what went on at the meeting. And if anyone wants more detail on that, they've got two options.
That's correct.
Correct? Okay, yeah,
excuse me.
Go ahead.
Actually, there are two things. It's kind of a segue, and to get ahead of it, we have a new city recorder. The city manager, by charter, assigns a city recorder. Jennifer Watkins had been. Becky was the assistant city recorder, so I've moved Becky into the position of city recorder. That's one thing I want to make sure to get on the record, because she's who we're going to rely on to make sure that the record is correct and available. And copies are available. The video recording and tape recordings are available here at City Hall and at the library.
Add one thing. Although the printed minutes are kept forever, the audio and the video are only required to be kept a year. And so, except for the executive session, we keep those for 10 years. So if somebody has an issue, you know, let us know within the first year if we need to go back to the tapes. But they should let us know before it's approved by the council.
Okay, thank you. Milo, your light's been on.
I agree with you, Mr. Mayor, that the minutes do not need to reflect the detail of what occurred at the last meeting when a gentleman, in a moment of anger, said something he may regret, I don't know. I disagree with you, however, in your referring to him as having been escorted from the meeting. After he uttered his profanity, he was asked to leave by at least 2 councilors, and he promptly did. And Chief Lohner accompanied him, but he was not escorted. He was willing to leave and promptly did.
Okay, I'll go along with your explanation.
Thank you.
Beverly.
Well, my concern about these minutes, and I had asked the question at the last meeting, and I still feel the same. This was a council meeting with the budget board, and there is a lot of opinion in these minutes. There was no action taken in this meeting. And an email that City Manager Bogart sent 2 days after this meeting says, though there was significant discussion of the implications of potential revisions, I did not detect any general agreement from the members of City Council on direction for changes to the approved budget. And that is not in the minutes. And to me, that is more representative of what should be in the minutes. Because what we have in the minutes is a statement that this is a reduction of approximately 20% of staff. That is not factual. That included 2 positions that were not filled from the previous year. So that is not a factual statement, because in truth, 2 of those positions had not been filled. So yeah, it's truthful. If we had all the staff we wanted, it would be a 20% reduction, but it is not a reduction. We had been operating with 2 less officers. So that made it into the minutes, and the fact that the council did not give any agreement or direction or consensus to change is not in the minutes. What we have is a lot of opinions from staff, and yet there are no statements from the council, no statements from the budget committee. This was a council meeting with the budget committee, and none of the comments of council or budget committee are captured. And that is why I object to this recording of the minutes, because I don't think it adequately records the meeting of the council. Thank you.
Sam.
The gentleman that we were talking about approached me the other day and thoroughly apologized, and he was real sincere about it. It's just one of those things that happened to him. So he did
And he apologized to me as well. Thank you. Gail.
I just want to ask, could the video recording serve as the official record of our meetings? It can't. Why not?
Because it's a permanent piece of history, and we don't know in 10 years or 20 years if we will be able to read it, because, as you know, many formats have gone away.
True.
And so that's why the Oregon State Archives, they dictate to us that at this point still we are required to have written
It's the written
minutes.
word that's going to stand.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Letha.
What Mayor Dora was referring to on the minutes was about a year ago when I prepared recommendations for the council to consider after Robert's Rules of Order, and then also suggested, of course, what we do now, and that's the video, and also for the city to look for a way to post the video on its own website in some way, and I'm sure there's a way to do it if we research that. And I would just like to email those out again, that we might look at them again. Because they're kind of a balance between extensive minutes that we have been getting and the bare bones that are required by law. And they have a good way of balancing staff input along with pros and cons on an issue without necessarily identifying individuals. So it captures the full nature of discussion without pinpointing individuals. So if you don't mind, I'll just email those out again, and we may or may not wish to look them over.
Thank you, Aletha. Okay, Council, we have item 4, the consent agenda minutes of the June 14th special meeting. What's your pleasure?
I move they be approved, and there is no expression of staff opinion in them anywhere.
So you move they be approved?
Be approved, okay, as written.
Is there a second?
As written or with no staff opinion?
As written.
Okay.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion?
I
Okay.
need to abstain because I was not at that meeting.
Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes as amended, really, amended from the last meeting? Is that what you?
Yeah, what
this
we
minute
have
that we
in
got
hand.
before us now.
I'm
Okay.
moving the approval
All
of
in
what
favor?
we have in hand.
Raise your right hand, please. Opposed? Did you vote?
I voted, yes,
For?
to approve.
Okay, motion carries.